You're listening to the Baumbastic Podcast with Andrew Ellis on Inside Arkansas.
What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Baumbastic Podcast presented by Inside Arkansas and hosted by Andrew Ellis. I'm coming to you after a chaotic 11-10 victory for the Arkansas Razorbacks to begin their three-game series against the Charlotte 49ers. This was a crazy game. Arkansas ends up utilizing a 10-run fourth inning to take the lead, and then the bullpen combined for a really good game. Arkansas starter Gabe Gaeckle got absolutely lit up like a Christmas tree in this one. We're going to get into all of it, but man, it's just the type of game that I just didn't see coming. Not that I didn't think Arkansas could play a close game with Charlotte, but this is a team that came in hitting, I believe, 226 on the year, 227 in that range. If you look at Charlotte's numbers coming into this series, you would be scared of their pitching staff, if anything else. They've got some really good arms in the bullpen. Arkansas saw a couple of those guys today. But really, I feel like the story in this one is WTF with Arkansas's ace Gabe Gaeckle on the bump. That's, he wasn't great last weekend, but we weren't overly concerned coming out of Arlington. But man, they just they hit him early and often. Charlotte takes a 5-0 lead in the top of the first inning. They tack on 4 more. I believe it came in the fourth inning there. And it just looked like it was not going to be Arkansas's day. Arkansas comes storming back with a 10-run fourth inning. We'll get into all of it. I want to go through the literal play-by-play of the fourth inning because it was chaotic top to bottom. I mean, that's where Charlotte really added to their lead, but it's also where Arkansas pretty much did all of their damage. Arkansas scores 11 runs in this game on 11 hits. So for the game, they finished hitting over 300. It was on paper, a good offensive, well-rounded performance. But 8 of those 11 hits came in the fourth inning, and of course, 10 of the 11 runs. So clearly that was the money inning. So I really just want to go through play-by-play of that because honestly, there wasn't a ton in this game outside of that, at least for Arkansas on the offensive side. Let's pull up the box score real quick and just talk about what we're seeing here. So you see the offensive breakdown there for Arkansas. Charles Davalon goes 1 for 4. He provided the lone run that came outside of that 10-run fourth inning. I guess it was in the third inning. Must have been the inning before. In the third inning, he hits a solo shot to left field on a 3-2 pitch that I don't even think was a strike. In fact, when he swung at it, I was like, dang, why'd he swing at that? And then it just kind of kept on floating. Wind kind of pushed it out there, gets right into the bullpen in left field. So he goes about, he's hitting 258 coming into this game. Average goes down to 257 after a 1 for 4. He was fine in this game. Also drew a walk. Good stuff from him. Fayetteville Fly had a double to start Arkansas's day in the first inning. Hit a couple other balls hard, but he ends up going 1 for 4. Logan Maxwell gets the start in right field. We knew they were going to kind of have to make a decision between him and Diggs, who, by the way, came into this game as a defensive replacement. Is that something you ever thought you would hear? Kendall Diggs entering the game in right field as a defensive replacement, but he did so today in a 1-run ball game. But Logan Maxwell swung the bat well. He actually led off that 10-run fourth inning with a solo home run, his first home run of the year. Also had a base hit that I believe went to left field. Pretty solid day at the office for Logan Maxwell. That's a bat that Arkansas certainly would like to get going. Brent Iredale actually weirdly goes 0 for 3 in this game, was hit by a pitch and also walked once and came around to score both times. And then Kahio Aloy just continues to do Kahio Aloy things. Had a huge opposite field double in that 10-run fourth inning that really broke it up, and I believe gave Arkansas the lead. So another go-ahead swing for Kahio Aloy. Had a base hit later up the middle to make it a 2-hit day. He goes 2 for 4 in this game, and his batting average goes down from 562 to 550. That tells you kind of how he's swinging the bat. Cam Kojal goes 2 for 5, swung the bat really well. Just missed a home run there in the 8th inning, ripped one foul. Nolan Souza gets to start at second base. We kind of wondered if they were, we felt like between him and Pepe, you had to bench one, and between Maxwell and Diggs, you had to bench one. They end up benching, quote unquote, Pepe and Diggs, though both came into the game. Rocco Pepe, I thought maybe had the swing of the day or one of the most important ones. We'll get to that in a minute. But he goes 1 for 2 off the bench. Reese Robinette comes in to place first base after him as a defensive replacement. And Justin Thomas in the 9-hole goes 1 for 4, drove in a run in that big ninth inning or in that big fourth inning. You see the line there on Gaeckle down at the bottom, 10 hits, 9 runs, all very earned. There was no controversy about whether or not they were earned runs. They were all earned, and they jumped on him early and often. Leadoff guy hits a little base hit, blooper to left center field. You end up getting a wild pitch, moves him up to second. Grounder moves him up to third. And then I believe it's Charlotte's 3-hole hitter, their catcher, Poteet, rips, just hits a fastball the other way, drives in a run with a double. So you get the one run there to start the game. That runner ended up getting to third, and Gaeckle gets a huge strikeout to get the second out. And I'm like, okay, if he can get out of this with just the one run, ends up giving up a 2-run home run right there, 4-pitch walk after that. And then it just continued from there. Ends up giving up 10 hits. I want to speak about the Gabe Gaeckle thing for just 1 second, linger on that. So one, that's back-to-back concerning outings. I would say this one obviously much more so. Last week, Gabe went 5 2/3 against Kansas State. Ended up giving up a couple runs, most of which came early. I thought he did a pretty good job of actually battling in that start to end up giving Arkansas 5 2/3. Seemed like he was trending towards something like that in this game. He gives up the 5 spot in the top of the first, was really angry with himself coming off the mound. Him and Ryder Helfrich are having some animated conversations. Then he comes back out in the second inning. I think it was 3 up, 3 down. He might have retired the next 6 hitters he faced, or at least 6 of 7 or something like that. Wasn't much going on. So you kind of think, and his pitch count at this point was at like 47, 48. And you're like, damn, he might be able to give Arkansas 5 or 6 innings. And then he comes back out for the 4th inning and things just completely imploded from there. I mentioned something with Gaeckle last week against Kansas State that I was just getting a fishy vibe where he wasn't generating a ton of swings and misses. And it seems like they were just sitting on whatever he was throwing no matter what. And Gaeckle's a guy that has a pretty legitimate arsenal. He has a legitimate 4-pitch mix with the fastball at 96, 98. And his stuff was good today. He'll throw the slider. That's probably his best off-speed pitch. Mixes in the curveball as well as the changeup. So it's pretty hard to know what's coming every pitch, but it seemed like Kansas State did, which is obviously always going to be a telltale. Like when you have a pitcher with the stuff of Gabe Gaeckle getting hit and seeing all these comfortable swings, you start to wonder, like, do they know what's coming? Is he tipping pitches or something? I mentioned that last week in the post-game show after the Kansas State game. After today's game, that certainly feels like something you need to look into. Of course, Gaeckle's got to command better. He needs to be better with locations, too much over the plate. And I'd really have to go back. I was watching, I don't know if you guys saw my seats. I had a pretty good vantage point for this game. I'm not here to brag. That's not what it's about. It's about the Hogs. We're going to talk about the Hogs. But just know, these takes are coming from someone who had a good vantage point. But I do want to go back and look at the TV copy to just see where some of these pitches were landing, some of these pitches that were getting hit hard. And again, Charlotte's not a team that really had good offensive numbers at all. So to say it was puzzling to see Gabe Gaeckle giving up so much hard contact would be an understatement. And if you look at, again, I'll pull up the numbers here, the rest of this Arkansas bullpen really didn't give up much. The bullpen combines to go 6 innings, gives up 5 hits, just the 1 run, which came on a solo home run. But what was that, 10 strikeouts, 9 strikeouts there in those 6 innings? So outside of, I know it's a very tough thing to say. Outside of Arkansas's ace that gave up 9 runs, the pitching staff was good. But outside of Arkansas's ace giving up 9 runs, the pitching staff was good. So again, that's kind of the big, obviously when you win a game 11-10, you're excited because you scored runs. You're excited because you started the series 1-0. And I was really impressed with the battle that Arkansas showed and just the fight they showed offensively. Of course, the question mark also goes, what the hell happened with the pitching staff? But really, it was just Gaeckle, which is kind of weird because, again, you're giving the ball first to him on the weekend. There's a reason for that from a stuff standpoint, from a mentality standpoint. We really haven't seen that throughout his career. I'll be interested to hear. I'll have to go back and listen to what DVH had to say about him after the game. He's meeting with the media right about now. But definitely just a weird outing. And if there's one guy on this Arkansas pitching staff that, I could probably afford to see something like that with, it would be Gabe Gaeckle, because he certainly wasn't a topic of concern coming into the season. But hey, maybe that transition to the starting rotation isn't as easy as maybe some of us made it out to be. But again, looking at these numbers here, I thought Dylan Carter did a great job of coming in and settling the game down. He gives up the 2 hits. I think the first pitch he threw was a breaking ball. The guy just rips to left field for a single, which again, kind of just is weird that these guys are sitting on everything. But he ends up getting a couple huge strikeouts. I think he stranded the bases loaded in that inning. So good stuff from Dylan Carter that I feel like gave Arkansas a chance to get back into this game. Of course, they needed all 10 of those runs they scored in the bottom half. But it really could have blown up even worse there. So good job by him to settle it down. After that, Colin Fisher, who is off to a really nice start to this season. He was obviously Arkansas's midweek starter last year, comes in, gets 2 innings of legitimate midweek work. He as well, I thought, kind of set that tone. He gives up the 1 solo home run, but he threw a ton of strikes, pitched to contact, had 3 strikeouts. I was very pleased with the way Colin Fisher threw the ball. And Parker Coyle continues to be just a a source of reliability for this Razorback bullpen. Seems like he has a good feel for settling games down anytime he's in the ball game. He ends up giving Arkansas 2 scoreless frames, allowed them, of course, to hold on to that lead and, get Christian Fouch able to come into a safe situation. And he hit a couple batters. Didn't make it easy necessarily on himself, but he gets a huge strikeout with a splitter. Good to see that. Good to see a swing and miss. Ends up getting a soft grounder to first base to end the frame in the game. Only throws 13 pitches. So very encouraging stuff. I said I wanted to go through play-by-play of this 4th inning. So again, this is going to be the entire top and bottom because I felt like this is where the game was won despite Charlotte winning. So it's 5-1 going into this. And this is Gaeckle out on the mound who's just thrown 2 scoreless innings. And you're like, okay, is he going to settle in? Is he going to be fine? Ends up giving up a triple off the wall in center field to start the inning. And then the next guy, I believe was their 9-hole, just lays down a perfect bunt down the third base line, ends up being a bunt single. So that scores another run, makes it 6-1, then has a guy on first, advances to second on a wild pitch, gives up a base hit to center field, just kind of blooped in there. And then another base hit hard right up the middle. Arkansas had brought the infield in. That drove in 2 runs. And matter of fact, on that bloop single, Justin Thomas threw the ball home trying to gun down the runner who stayed at third base, allowed that runner at first to move up to second. The Arkansas dugout was very upset about that decision. They were not happy about it. But anyways, then you have the Arkansas brings the infield in a 6-1 game with 0 outs. They're trying to just cut down that run. He just hits one right up the middle, hard off of Gabe Gaeckle. And so then Arkansas goes to Dylan Carter, who again, first pitch he throws, double to left by their catcher Poteet. Then he hits a guy in an 0-1 count. And then he gets a big strikeout. And then you have a fielder's choice, which I believe it was hit to Kojal, and he comes home, cuts down the runner, his bases loaded, 1 out, does a good job to cut down the run at home, starting to get some positive momentum. And then there was a hard base hit to right field, which scored the 9th run of the game for Charlotte, which ended Gabe Gaeckle's line at 9 innings. Thought Dylan Carter was going to be able to get out of there unscathed completely, but it was hit so hard to right field, they weren't able to score 2 on it. And then Dylan Carter comes back, gets a big strikeout. So again, Arkansas gives up 4 runs in the inning, and Dylan Carter ended up, wasn't charged with it, ends up giving up the one of Gaeckle's leftover runs, but he strands the bases loaded. So it really could have blown up even worse there. And then in the Arkansas bottom half, that's where things really turned around. Logan Maxwell jumps on the second pitch he sees, hits it to right center for his first home run of the year. And then Brent Iredale works a walk. I thought that was a really important at-bat just to kind of set that tone. And he's a guy that's going to get pitched around a good bit this year, so it's good to see him willing to take his walks. Kahio Aloy, who again has been swinging the hot bat, gets down 0-2 immediately, works 2, gets a ball, fouls 1 off, gets 2 more balls, first and second, nobody out. And then Cam Kojal swings at the first pitch he sees, smacks it to left field. They decide to hold the runner there at third base. I thought it was a good decision. And then Ryder Helfrich strikes out. So again, huge moment in the game here. And I think this is also when Charlotte went to the bullpen. They went to a lefty, which prompted a move. Arkansas was thinking about pinch hitting for Kojal against the lefty. They end up deciding, they look and see Nolan Souza 2 batters later and said, actually, that's where we want to pinch hit. And so you have bases loaded, nobody out. Helfrich strikes out. And again, 9-1 game at this point. So Arkansas hasn't broken through at all. Actually, that's 9-2 game at this point. Maxwell hit the home run, but Arkansas is still kind of waiting to get that momentum. And then Helfrich strikes out, and you kind of feel that tension in the crowd of like, oh no, they're going to end up squandering this thing. And so you have Souza's spot coming up for the lineup, but Rocco Pepe gets the nod and immediately goes down 0-2. Takes a ball, fouls 1 off, and then rips a double down the left field line. That drives in 2. He was very fired up for that, makes it a 9-4 game. I felt like that was the most important swing of the ball game, because if he doesn't come through in that spot, ends up popping 1 up or striking out, the air would have been let out of the stadium. It would have definitely been a gut punch. Arkansas might have been able to score some runs, but it would have definitely limited the upside of that inning. And then Justin Thomas Jr. follows him with a base hit to center field, kind of blooped in the right spot there. Davalon hits a ground ball hard to first base. Guy steps on first, throws to second. Shortstop was not able to hold on and get the double play there, which turned out to be massive. Vahiva Aloy had another very underrated at-bat in this inning. So he goes ball, strike, ball, fouls off 3 in a row. and then works a walk. He was very fired up. He was like beating his chest after a walk, which you don't see too often. But in that situation, he knew how big of an at-bat that was. And again, I mentioned the Iredale walk earlier in that inning. How cool is that for two of Arkansas's, they're big name guys. They're expecting to drive in a ton of runs, willing to take their walks. And then the guy right after them comes through with a hit. Logan Maxwell being it this time, just gets a base hit through the left side of the infield in a 2-1 count. That drives home another run. Iredale gets hit by a pitch to load the bases, and then Kahio Aloy clears those bases with a double to right center. I don't know what the exit velo was on this one, but it like one hop to the wall, just absolutely tagged. And then the next pitch right after that, Cam Kojal lines a base hit right up the middle. Ryder Helfrich ended up reaching with an infield hit, and Rocco Pepe was hit by a pitch, which I believe loaded up the bases again. So he thought Arkansas could do even more damage. And then Justin Thomas ends up grounding out to the shortstop there. But again, that was there was 14 runs scored in that frame in that inning right there between the two teams. Arkansas was able to pretty much squeeze as much juice out of the fruit as they could. And Charlotte kind of left something to be desired there. Both teams leave the bases loaded in that inning. But Arkansas was able to just do a little bit more damage. And I felt like that was it. And Arkansas needed all of those runs. Like I said, man, I mean, you end up winning a game 11-10. The lead never felt safe no matter what on either side. And of course, it ended up being a 1-run game for the majority of it. So credit to the Arkansas bullpen, or I guess it was a 2-run game for a couple innings there. Then the Fisher home run made it a 1-run game, but it was a tight game. There was a lot of high leverage innings for this Arkansas bullpen to have to piece together. They did a great job doing that, man. Really good stuff from Dylan Carter. Again, I want to keep shouting out his outing. Only gets the 3 outs, but they were maybe 3 of the most important outs in the game. Christian Fouch also only gets 3 outs, but they were, of course, the final 3 really tough to get. That's 2 times in a row now we've seen him battle through some trouble to come through and get a save. That's his second on the year. And then the 2 lefties, Parker Coyle and Colin Fisher, just doing what they do best, filling up the zone, mixing speeds, not being able to let these hitters get a rhythm, just kind of, throwing a ton of strikes and keeping hitters off balance. Just good stuff. Love to see it. So looking ahead to tomorrow into what Arkansas has from a pitching standpoint, let's pull up our circle of trust here for this, actually. So you've got Gabe Gaeckle. Obviously, he's off the board. Dylan Carter threw an inning in this game. Pretty high leverage stuff. You'd think he'd probably be available, but maybe more on Sunday if you're going to bring him back at all. Same would probably go for Parker Coyle, Colin Fisher. Let me pull up the pitch counts real quick. So Dylan Carter throws 24, which is, of course, not a crazy workload at all. So probably don't want to throw him tomorrow, but he would seemingly be available on Sunday. Coyle only threw 25 pitches to get through his 2 innings. And with the way they've been using him, I certainly would not be stunned to see Coyle come back on Sunday. Fisher throws 33 pitches, and he's a guy that's coming off injury. Probably won't see him again the rest of the weekend. I feel like he did a good job. It's good to give him a couple days off. Really pleased with his outing there from the sophomore. And then Fouch only throws 13 pitches. So hypothetically, Fouch could be back tomorrow. You'd probably like to avoid that if you could. Hopefully Arkansas bats just kind of take care of business. But again, you just look around this circle of trust. You've still got Tate McGuire has not thrown. He threw twice last weekend for Arkansas. So of course they would definitely be in, he would be in line for some high leverage work this weekend. You've got all 3 of those righties in that conglomerate there, Bybee, Jimenez, McIntyre. If you needed a long relief type of situation, I would assume you'd go to one of those arms. And then Cole Gibbler, the freshman left-hander, who's been really good for Arkansas in his first 2 outings. We haven't seen him in a true high leverage situation. So it'll be interesting to see if this weekend yields itself to that kind of opportunity for Gibbler. He's definitely got the stuff to do it. So McGuire and Gibbler would probably be your top 2 arms available tomorrow. Potentially McIntyre in that mix as well. Don't yell at me for saying that. But then, of course, I think if Arkansas gets to a save situation, a 2-run, 3-run game, 1-run game in the 9th inning, I think Carson Wiggins would be the guy that would get the ball. So all eyes are kind of on the young kids tomorrow with McGuire, Gibbler, and Wiggins. We're talking about like 8 combined innings of collegiate work under their belts. But these are guys that have had good off seasons, have good stuff. Those are probably going to be the type of guys you see tomorrow. And then, like I said, Sunday, you'll just kind of piece it together with whoever you need. But I feel like tomorrow is a big opportunity for Zach Root, who has already maybe established himself as the most reliable starter for Arkansas. Could really use some length after the way Arkansas's bullpen had to piece it together. And then remember, Arkansas also had to piece together Sunday's game against Michigan because you had the unfortunate Gage Wood injuries. That's back-to-back weekend games where we've seen this bullpen really have to step up to the plate and get the job done. Today's performance I thought was really encouraging in that regard. But it'd be really nice to see these next two starters, Shees and Root, experienced guys who have gone deep in their careers before. If Arkansas could get 5 or 6 innings out of both of those guys, would really do a lot for their chances. And of course, I think Arkansas's offense, their lineup, built a lot of confidence today. So we will see what that looks like. Another righty on the bump for Charlotte tomorrow. So don't expect any crazy changes. We'll kind of see if they get Pepe back in that starting lineup. He played first base for a while today. We'll see if that's the direction they go. Nolan Souza only had the one at-bat. Hit the ball fairly hard, just grounded out to first base. First pitch, I think he saw one pitch, change up, grounds it sharply to first base. See you later, kid. That was all he did today. We'll see if he gets another opportunity. Kendall Diggs, I mentioned, came in as a defensive replacement. I assume he's going to get at least one start, but not expecting any wholesale changes with the lineup yet. And they swing it pretty well today. And so Kahio Lloyd, like I've been saying, until he cools off, I feel like he's got to be your everyday DH. And so good, productive win for the Razorbacks. It's a game that, again, I didn't expect. I don't know how. I'm not necessarily thrilled about it. Like I kind of like the 6-4 games a little bit better. I know everybody likes the offense, but these kind of games really make me nervous. As a former pitcher myself, I kind of view myself as a pitcher. These games make me nervous for sure. And so I'm not crazy about Arkansas's ace giving up 9 runs. We'll see how he's able to bounce back in the coming weeks leading up to conference play. But overall, I felt like Arkansas, their bullpen was big time in this game. So that's very encouraging. I know it sounds ridiculous to say, but outside of Arkansas's ace giving up 9 runs, I thought the Hogs were awesome today. And that's going to be the lens I'm going to view it through. So get a better start on the mound tomorrow. Keep those bats hot. Maybe do it for more than just one inning tomorrow. No big deal. But overall, Arkansas starts the series with a dub. And Fridays, game ones have been the Achilles heel of this team so far. They played their worst game of the year probably against Washington State in that opener when it was 28 degrees. Their only loss came against Kansas State last week in game 1. So maybe this was just their game 1 jitters and they'll play much better tomorrow. Anyways, good offensive performance from the Razorbacks. One that I feel like will build some confidence with the fan base. I'm sure you guys like to see that. And believe it or not, man, that came against some decent Charlotte arms, and they've still got a couple guys left in that bullpen that Arkansas is going to have to deal with. But I'm definitely pretty encouraged more so with the offense. And I'm definitely going to see how this Gabe Gaeckle situation plays out. But he's a super talented kid that, big picture, I'm really not going to lose too much sleep over his development. So that's all I got for you on today's Baumbastic recap. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Remember, we will be back tomorrow at noon for a watch party of the Arkansas basketball game as they take on South Carolina in Columbia. And Curtis will, of course, I'll have to leave him at some point to go to Baum. Curtis will have the Pot at the Palace post-game, and then after that, I will have a recap on this channel of the Baumbastic post-game show recap of Arkansas's game 2 against Charlotte. Can they clinch the series? Have a great Friday night, everyone. Be safe. See you tomorrow at the